Now this is gold, and we are watching for a small bounce back to the upside here as the US dollar gets slightly weaker, and that will likely create then an opportunity to get on the short side. So let's go ahead and walk through that for you here. Now you can see obviously we have had failures here on this longer term view versus these old highs almost perfectly. Right there, and right there, all around that 2075 to 2100 area, and then have backed off. We are watching for this to then get into that corrective period with this low on this minor cycle only do 814 to 109. So that indicates we likely have a couple of months here of overall a grind on the downside that likely builds out a flag, and then after that we will look for it to turn back up into year end. Okay, so this is not a bearish picture on the intermediate term, but just indicates that we need to really build out a higher low base here prior to turning back to the upside. If we go ahead and shift over to the daily chart, now we have lost this low at 1982, so we are likely in a left-hand translation. We now have to see a failure and a lower high form, and we don't want to see the falling slim ribbon turn positive at this point. For this to really be a proper left-hand translation, it needs to now only get at best to neutral. It really needs to stay neutral to red, and if so, we would be in a left-hand translation where the high forms early, and you look for rallies to fail into this next low, which is only due towards that later part of June into the early part of July. Now, in the short term, as I said earlier, we are watching for a bear flag to form, as it's likely doing as we speak here into 2004 to 2020 or so. Then watch for a failure in that zone, and then for this to turn back to the downside. We do not want to see this through that 61.8 at 2035. If we now go ahead and shift to the overall timing, as I said earlier, there's a low that's due towards the later part of June. So watching for a bear flag, and then for this to roll back to the downside.